happy about this? Yo, nappy-headed bitch, you happy about this? You nappy-headed.
What do you want to call me?
About this? You with your 5 white friends? All liberal. Put it in your nose.
Bloomington's an interesting town. We espouse all the rhetoric of a progressive liberal mecca, but the reality often falls short of that. It's an old city. It's got a lot of buried history. Growing up as a little black boy in small town Indiana, not only with a speech impediment, but being so different from my neighborhood, there were a lot of times that people around me wanted me to be quiet or less outspoken. There's a lot of deep-seated racism in our community, and I think we're going to see more and more that that's going to come bubbling up to the surface.
Tonight, growing outrage in Indiana.
A black man says a group of white men pinned him to a tree and threatened to lynch him.
Please, let him go.
Witnesses pleaded for the attackers
This
to
week,
release him.
protests erupted.
Demand the prosecution of Vauxx's attackers.
No arrests were made, but an investigation is ongoing.
If I'm going to be in this moment, I'm going to make sure that we bring about change and that no one else has to go through this.
Test, 1, 2, 1, 2, test.
Vauxx, as the person in the center of all of this, you've given a number of interviews. To my knowledge, those interviews are kind of limited to a few minutes at a time. So what we want to do is give you a chance to give you a full accounting of what happened that day. If you don't mind, just walk us through the whole thing.
A friend and I decided that we would go out to Lake Monroe to watch the lunar eclipse.
You probably heard this, but I'll go ahead and repeat it for those who might not have. Just a week ago, I went out just to watch the lunar eclipse.
I struggled my whole life to be understood. My father chose to name me the Latin for voice, Vauxx. He had changed the spelling because he just got to know my dad. So here I am, a child named Voice, and consequently, later in life, I had a profound speech impediment. So we were going into the huge national forest with some friends.
Okay.
We were still within the public spillway, the buffer zone from the beach. So a lot of these things, when you talk about how powerfully I'm able to engage when I speak, is because I understand the importance of having your voice. America really doesn't have a lot of space for powerful, outspoken, well-adjusted, confident black men.
So it was about a short 10-minute hike into the woods, and on our way into the woods, I encountered a white man in a Confederate flag hat.
Yeah, I was with Vauxx pretty much the whole time, and on the way up, we passed by this guy wearing a big red Confederate flag cowboy hat. He said that we were on private property.
When the gentleman encountered us and told us we were on private property, I knew we were on public land, but I didn't want to have any type of conflict.
So I just apologized. We went on.
And we waved at him, said, "How you doing?" and kept walking. Another one of the campers was coming up to meet us, and he said,
your neighbors aren't very friendly. He said I was trying to walk back through here, and he stopped, wouldn't let me pass, and tried to get me to give him a toll to get back to the campsite.
He had white power chanted at him.
He heard somebody shouting white power over and over again.
Basically had barricaded off the beach with a boat and some ATVs. That's though they had the right to create a checkpoint on public land.
For obvious reasons, that made Vauxx feel a little uncomfortable being at the campground next to these people who were clearly racist.
Some people ask, why would you go talk to someone that you thought was racist? This is Indiana. Black people in Indiana can't avoid racism, and there's no point acting like we can.
He's a black man, and the things he was hearing were targeted towards people of color. He wouldn't go open up a dialogue with them.
I'm a trained mediator. I'm a human rights commissioner. I have years of conflict de-escalation training. It was easier to just go back and see if we could be good neighbors, have a conversation and recognize each other's humanity.
We tried to talk him out of it. We were afraid that it was just going to go south.
We just didn't want the trouble, and we had an idea that, we should probably just leave him be, but Vauxx wasn't going to be silent about it.
Whiteness is a culture that is risk avoidant. It's better to leave things as it is than to disturb the waters or rock the boat. And that risk avoidance is partially been cultivated over the decades, the centuries, to allow oppressive systems to stay in place. We've done that for too long, and we've got to change.
Let's go. Let's
go. Hey, I'm from Atlanta. Fucking videotape it all you want.
And the whole time he was talking to him, he never once raised his voice to the point that I could even hear it from where I was standing. And his hands were in his pockets. You know, he was being calm. He wasn't being aggressive in any way at all.
My friend and I walk away. A few minutes later, I hear footsteps quickly approach.
And the man that was wearing the Confederate flag cowboy hat shoved him, and Vaughx started to turn around, and the guy punched Vaughx in the face.
He has my arm twisted behind my back, actively trying to break it.
And he said, "You need to get the out of here. I'm gonna you up too. We're keeping the boy. We're gonna take good care of the boy. You get out of here now."
They call him a boy, and they say, "Leave the boy."
Leave the boy with us. Not man, not guy, leave the boy. And there was this moment where I was pinned under these men that I had to ask myself, were these white people really going to leave me? Were they going to save themselves? Were they going to turn away? And if you're black, you know we've been in this situation where we've been let down before. And was this going to be my end?
The man in the red shirt with the Confederate flag hat, he yelled out, "Somebody get a noose. We need a noose for this boy." They were apparently entertained by the idea of killing him. So whether or not they would actually go through with it, I don't know. But they're making the threats, and you know, that's disturbing enough to me.
And the first thing that I want to say with all these men on top of me is that I can't breathe. And we've heard it so many times before that before I can even get the words out, I stop. Honestly, at this moment, I even hold my breath.
Jon, let him go.
I get out my phone.
Jon, let him go.
And I just keep approaching and keep advancing towards him. Let him go. Let him go.
Guys, get the out of here. Let him go. Get your phones out here and go. Shake your head at me and go. Get the
I get up to the man who's got Vaughx pinned, and I set my hand on his shoulder, and he turns around and looks at me. Like, we're a foot away, and he looks at me right in my eyes, and I say, "Let him go." And at that point, Vaughx stands up.
That's what you get. Take your ass on.
Are you okay?
It's been almost 7 days since you were attacked. How do you feel knowing it's been 7 days and people who did that to you are still walking free?
You know, the reality is these gentlemen would never have targeted and attacked me if they didn't believe that they had a government that was going to hold them accountable. They attacked me because they thought they could get away with it. And here we are a week later, and they're still out free.
We felt like there was plenty enough proof and enough testimony between all of us that were at the campsite that the police ought to have arrested these guys. I mean, it was obviously a one-sided attack. It wasn't a fight between two groups. They attacked one man in our group, the black man, and they refused to let him go.
How long have we been telling white folks that the system was corrupt? And for them to see it in action was a powerful wake-up call. It's something that I think some of them are still reeling from.
For this ugliness to pop up in our little liberal town here in Bloomington, Indiana, for it to make national headlines, I think it's telling of what's going on, of the bigger problem in our country.
We've just seen from a string of public encounters, and folks have been saying for a while that Bloomington isn't actually, you know, a safe city for minorities.
Just the next town over, Bedford, Indiana, there's a guy on national news right now for flying a Confederate flag, hanging a noose off the back of his truck, driving around town, in response to what's going on here in Bloomington.
I honestly don't understand why they're so upset.
I'm a victim that's alive, and if you're gonna hashtag me, I'm alive. But there were too many folks that didn't make it.
Down the young, unarmed black man.
This appearance is being feared as part of the rising trend.
Was reportedly found on the campus of Johns Hopkins University.
Noose was left on the seat of the vehicle he drives to clean the facility by a coworker.
Lynching was the ultimate terror-inducing tactic, intended to silence black communities, to stop them from pushing too far ahead. This is a thing that should be shaking the nation, and it should be shaking the world. I want this to be the moment that folks stop just filming, stop being bystanders, and they start participating and engaging. We don't have another day, we don't have another week. The people who are victimized shouldn't be the people who are afraid. We need to stand up, and we need to demand justice. They will kill us and blame us for our own deaths, or torture us and blame us for our own pains. And if either way we may die, at least I'm determined that I'm not going to die silently.